Hey, I'm Cameron,
And I'm Will.
and this is Shoot First Questions Later, an informative and mildly entertaining photography podcast with a raw Aussie flavour. And as usual, we're going to answer some questions, but first, let's talk about what we've been photographing in the last week, Wilbur.
Okay, Cam. Here we are. We're in New Zealand, the beautiful South Island of NZ. We're currently reclining in Queenstown, looking out over some snow-capped peaks. It's a beautiful sight. And the past week, we have been touring around this part of the world.
Yep. We've had a crew with us, workshop crew.
Yeah, been running a workshop the past week, and to say the least, it's been a memorable week, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's had a few highs, a few lows.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just start from the beginning, hey? We'll go day by day.
Oh, whoa, ease up. How much time do we have?
3 hours.
Okay, let's go back. It started on July the 15th at 9 a.m. No.
Yeah.
So about a week ago now, we arrived here.
Yeah, flew in a day before the podcast.
Cut it, man. Cut the mic.
Flew in
the day before the workshop commenced. Oh, you've just brought back some good memories. I'm glad we're backtracking here.
Yeah.
Because we decided... I turned 30, so we... on the 13th, basically. So we got here on the 14th. And I decided to treat myself and yourself to a nice sunrise flight over the Southern Alps.
Because a couple of days early, on the 11th, I turned 54.
Correct. No, 53, isn't it?
When you get to my age, these things
it's all
slip
the
by.
same.
So.
It all rolls into one. No, that's right. You turned... How old are you? Like 17?
Do you mean mentally?
You annoy me because ever since I met you, I just kind of thought you were 25 or around that age. And you weren't. You were like probably 20 when I met you. But every year you have a birthday, I'm like, okay, he's 25 this year. Okay, he's 25 this year. He's got to be 25 this year. And you're still not... I think you're 24 now, aren't
I'm 24, yeah.
Jeez, man. You make me feel old.
So, yeah, we treated ourselves, I suppose, to a sunrise flight.
Yeah, mate. Unbelievable. I've been in the air quite a few times here, but... it's just stunning every single time. So I think that's been a real highlight for me the past week, just getting up there. If you use a helicopter, you're paying out the nose. But I decided to go for a smaller plane this time, a Cessna, and fortunately the window can open up on the passenger side of the plane.
Yeah, pretty rough shooting through windows sometimes.
Yeah,
especially
that's a
with
tip
the
for anyone.
telephoto.
If you're planning on doing aerials, you really can't shoot through a window with confidence. Just even if the window is flat, if you're shooting on a slight angle, there's a good chance you'll have a soft photo somewhere within that frame. So yeah, if you're serious about it, you need either the doors off on a chopper or a window open on a plane. Even some small planes can have the doors off too. So that's what we opted for, just the window here. Admittedly, it was a bit hard for young Camster in the back.
Just getting blasted
with
ice cold alpine air.
Yeah, exactly, in winter.
Good stuff.
But when you get to 30, mate,
wakes you
can sit in the front and have the window open instead of getting frozen in the back.
Yeah, no, it was fine. It was
beautiful though, wasn't it? It was really fun.
And we flew up, if you know New Zealand at all, we flew up to Mount Aspiring and flew around
did
that
a hot
area.
lap around Aspiring.
Yeah, got some nice clouds up there. There was this cloud. How would you describe those clouds sweeping over the mountain?
Well, that's just it. They were sweeping over the mountain. But just
we'll put a photo
on that, actually, just a little thing here with photography, and especially nature and landscape photography. This was a perfect example and demonstration of how you just can't plan to the finest detail when it comes to shooting landscapes. Like in my mind, I wanted to photograph Mount Aspiring, facing east just as the sun was popping up. Had the vision in my head, and as we got in the air, the sun kind of got up a little bit sooner than I'd hoped. The plane just took a little longer to get to altitude. And we ended up seeing some these unusual clouds just drifting over a few peaks, and they ended up being the highlight of the shoot. Aspiring, by the time we get there, the light was a little bit too harsh, but also it just wasn't really the angle I was hoping for. But it's just about adapting to the situation at hand, and these clouds that we got pretty cool.
Yeah, luckily we had some...
It wasn't much cloud, but it was just enough.
Yeah, and we were able to give a certain amount of direction to the pilot. So we had that luxury of being able to say, let's go over there away from Aspiring for a bit to get these clouds.
Yeah, we did a few, last minute turns. Bin, his name was Bin.
Bin, okay.
Bin.
Oh, Ben.
Yeah, Bin.
New Zealand accent
Top bloke, actually.
gets me every
I'd
time.
like to go up with these guys again and hopefully get Bin, because he was cool.
Yeah.
He got it. He knew what it was all about. Me pointing and yelling. No. So, yeah, that was good. Good start to the week. And then we met up with the crew. Awesome bunch of people.
Yeah, really good time.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Started off in Queenstown, didn't we? Went to some down to Glenorchy. Took some photos down there.
Yeah, down by the lake. Some quite moody that first day off memory. And then basically just did a bit of a cruise through the centre of the island, going through Wanaka.
Yep.
Where else? Lake Tekapo, Mount Cook region, and then came back this way. And back to what I mentioned earlier about not being able to,
the weather, plan around the weather.
Yeah, man, some interesting weather came in. Some of the most interesting weather I've experienced here. We had a huge a bank of fog roll through at Tekapo and Lake Pukaki.
Yeah, that was insane. We've got a lot of fog photos because
this really low-lying fog that was just sticking to the edges of the lakes, and we could go in and out of the fog as we're driving, and it'd be crystal clear blue skies. And then once we're in the fog, it looked like a miserable overcast day. But the highlight for me personally was seeing my first ever fog bow.
Fog bow, something I didn't even know existed until we saw it.
There was basically this unusual rainbow. It didn't even really have all the
super
spectrum in it.
Desaturated rainbow.
It's just like a halo basically, and in front of the car as we're driving for probably half an hour at least, just drifting in and out as the sunlight would penetrate through the fog. Yeah. That was unusual. It was hard to photograph just because there wasn't many compositional options, but just experience-wise, it was unusual. It's really cool.
We made a few stops, jumped out of the car, just went camera crazy. Luckily, there were...
Jumped out of the car 90 kilometres an hour, as per usual on my workshop.
Yeah, just pulling up the handbrake to a halt.
That brings back memories of day one when I almost ran the car off the road. Anyway, let's not go there.
Actually, just on that first day, we tried to go to a certain location and got stuck in the ice.
Yeah, that's right.
A bit of icy conditions in Queenstown that particular day.
Heading out to Moke Lake, quite a popular lake here in Queenstown. We encountered ice there last year and had to put the chains on and kind of retreat because the road's quite windy. Put it this way, it's 4-wheel drive access only in winter. There's signs there that say that, but you can't let a sign hold you back in life.
No.
So we thought this year, let's go to suss it out before the workshop commences to avoid getting caught on the ice during the workshop. And as it turned out, we got caught on the ice.
Yeah, and we were doing the right thing. We tried to go up, said, nah, we can't do this. Let's get out of here. And it was in, reversing to turn around that we lost traction and sort of had to scratch some ice in front of the tyres so we could...
Just a dangerous scenario, and luckily we're so tough. And
it turned out fine in the end, yeah. And but what happened, we were at Tekapo experiencing all this fog and running around in this forest, and we eventually got to Mount Cook, spent a couple of days in Mount Cook, but then... Oh, sorry, not even a couple of days, a day, really. And then we had to get out of there because the storm was rolling.
Yeah, storm of the year, as per the media says, was making its way to the island, South Island. So I decided let's get out of there before we get trapped, because they're predicting up to 50 centimetres of snow around the ground in some areas, up in those higher elevations. So we had to kind of change the itinerary last minute and head back to Wanaka, which worked out really good anyway. But funny enough, the whole point of that exercise was obviously so no one, wasn't able to get home when the workshop ended. But as we've come back to Queenstown on our last day, which was yesterday, everyone's flight was cancelled due to this weather that's been smashing the country.
Yeah, so heaps high winds in the Queenstown airport, just wasn't allowing.
We're watching the planes come down and then retreat at the last minute and pull up, making everyone surely feel
terrible.
Yeah, terrible, exactly. And even our family members who were coming over, our partners and my wife and the kids, unfortunately couldn't land either. And now, as we speak, they are on the other side of the South Island, waiting for the weather to sort itself out so they can fly back across.
Yeah, so
basically NZ has just showed us who's boss right now.
Yeah, so the weather and nature has given us a really great few days there for a bit and shown us some really awesome things. But just like that, it's also
Humbled
taken
us.
away a bit of our...
It gives and takes,
yeah.
my man.
So just got to respect that. And
don't you tell me what to do. No,
Yeah,
so
gotta-
true though. Yeah, definitely. And these conditions, adverse conditions, I feel like they're the best for photography. They're challenging. It's cold. It's raining at times, and
separated from loved ones.
separated from loved ones. But from a photographic perspective, you can really get something unique, which everyone on this trip successfully did. So it was really good.
Yeah. Did you have a highlight, sort of, in terms of the workshop and teaching
Yes.
some of the guys? Do you think you had a highlight of that experience?
It's a tricky one. The whole week was definitely just a really good time. I think the Hooker Lake, yes, funny name, Hooker Lake, at Mount Cook, seeing it this frozen, this lake freezes over in winter, but this is the most frozen over I've seen it. Enough for me, I walked out maybe 30 metres or so across this ice, and it was just amazing to finally be there. But the reaction of everyone's faces being so humbled and blown away by being in the presence of the Southern Alps beneath the country's tallest mountain, and this incredible huge lake frozen over with shards of ice and all these unusual details everywhere, seeing people get incredible photos and just experience something that's so far removed from our everyday lives. Everyone on this trip is from Australia, and obviously we just don't get this type of stuff there. And like I said, this was the best conditions I've seen it, and it's amazing year round, but this was just primo, or as I'd normally say, molto bene. Molto bene. It was really nice.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably a highlight for me. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I loved seeing sort of how far everyone came. Like at the start of the trip,
They were just
compared to
crap.
the-
They were just really bad photographers. I mean, you still recording, dude?
and just by the end, everyone you could see in their photos, and we were having a great time editing. And like just looking at everyone's photos, some of them we were just blown away by, weren't we? Like,
Yeah, I was almost like, shut up, just take my money. Like seeing some of the photos.
Yeah.
Incredible. That's the biggest highlight for me with running workshops, is that seeing people progress, or seeing that aha moment go off in their head when they're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get that I have to take the lens cap off if I want to shoot a good photo. No, but yeah.
It takes a long while for people to learn that.
Sometimes it does.
I do it 50% of the time.
We've all been there. But it's pretty awesome, isn't it? Just seeing that progression. But what about highlight for
experience-wise?
Like photo op-wise?
Yeah, look, I think my favourite sort of photos were possibly from the fog, just because that's
when we kind of pulled over in the trees
with me.
there.
Yeah. But in terms of experience, there was just one time where I was flipping out over Mount Cook. Like I'd look at it and then I'd turn and keep walking, and then I'd look back and it would just look even better. Like I just couldn't look away from this mountain, and it was just I was frothing hard. And so just like that sort of appreciation on like a not necessarily a photographic level, even though I was shooting it, but just really appreciating the scale and the size of that thing.
Yeah, and I know the moment you're talking about. The funny thing with mountains is the way they can control the weather and the cloud especially, and this cloud was moving in from the west, and you could see it moving very quickly, and you're certain that, okay, it's about to cover the face of Mount Cook, which happens a lot, probably 50% of the time year round, but the wind coming in from the east was pushing the cloud downwards, so it was just doing a constant cycle, I think.
Yeah, it was like Mount Cook was cutting the cloud.
Yeah, there was like this invisible barrier there, and I did a time lapse, and you could see it. The cloud was just circling on the spot.
It's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a moment.
Good times, man.
So how about question time?
It's been a while since our last podcast, so we'll open up a question here. From
2 questions.
Two questions.
Really live on the edge here. So what do we have there, Cam?
So this question's from Carolina, and she writes, "Hi, you both took amazing shots over the years, but I wanted to ask if you could both share the first picture you took that made you realise you were real photographers. The one photo you first felt proud of. I hope you guys can remember and share them. Thanks."
Cool. Carolina?
So,
that's a good question.
Yeah, it is. The photos that we're going to talk about, we'll put it on in the show notes in the description of the episode. But we'll also put it on our Instagram page for the podcast, which is Shoot First Podcast on Instagram.
Yeah.
So
check out
anything
we've talked about here, the fog and whatnot.
We'll describe the photos, but it might be easier to go have a look at the ones we're talking about. Would you like to kick it off?
Yeah. These questions sometimes are daunting. It's like, oh, where do how do you dig back through your memory to think of something like that? But I kind of just going to go with instinct here and the first shot that came to mind. And, so I think that's probably the one.
Yeah, good idea.
It's just a photo which I still have like on my website. I think it's the oldest photo I've still like kind of have in my portfolio. Sunrise at the beach in Wollongong where I live. A really vibrant sky just with the lighthouse silhouetted. Probably back in 2012 now, actually, this photo, when I shot it.
5 years.
Big 5 years. So that was the first year I picked up a camera, 2012, the DSLR. And it's just, I just remember shooting this moment. I'd probably been taking photos for maybe 4 months before that. So I started with the iPhone and then decided to try and use a DSLR. And the thing that kind of resonated with me instantly with photography was just light and sunrises, especially nice colourful skies, which are quite rare. And I started making a habit of waking up, as I still do to this very day, a good hour or so before the sunrise, just to kind of get to a location or, look at what the light's going to do. And admittedly, back then, I didn't understand what may present a good sunrise in terms of colour and things like that. I was kind of just going out anyway, wherever, and just taking photos. But this particular sunrise, as you'll see in the show notes on the Instagram page, was just one of those real ethereal fireballs that just lights up the whole sky. And I just remember standing there and looking at it thinking, yes, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Not in regards to career-wise, definitely not. More just, this is the hobby for me for life.
Powerful.
Getting up early, just being alone on the beach, surrounded by these waves, the water, the sand, and looking up at this site, which is quite foreign to me. Maybe prior to picking up a camera, I've seen possibly only 5 sunrises in my life. And just having this moment and being able to get the photo that I was proud of at the time, it just, there was nothing like it. It just made me feel so happy and free. And yeah, I just knew, I wouldn't say I knew I was a photographer. I don't know about that part of the question where I thought, yes, this is, the one that's, I feel like has made me a photographer or anything. But it was certainly the one that I just thought, I'm going to chase these moments forever. Which sounds super deep, but I guess it kind of is. And that's why this photo came to mind, because I just remember getting that feeling like, why would I ever sleep in again when there's potential for this type of natural display to happen every single day? And yeah, that's why to this day, as you know very well, Cameron, I still wake up every morning
chasing that feeling.
Just looking, later, watching the sky and just saying, okay, is something going to present itself here in nature, and just trying to capture it the best I can. And certainly don't always succeed at doing that, but just still love trying and just getting out there anyway. And it's just sunrises especially. Back when I photographed this, I was a tradesman at the time, just working standard 9-to-5 type job, and having that time before work started, it just gave me an extra part of the day that I used to sleep away. And now it was like I just unlocked this hidden secret in life. Like, hang on, you can get up early and have this time alone and experience things that not a lot of many people get to experience.
Yeah. For sure.
Now, please pass me the tissues. It's really, it was good. Good times, mate.
That's beautiful, and that's why you teach people to this day how to feel those things as well.
Yeah, it's so much more than the photos. Obviously, it's about everything else that goes into it, and what you take away as an individual on a physical, spiritual, mental level.
Yeah.
And if you can get the photo on top of that, then that's just the bonus. But it's everything else that leads up to it, which has really just made me the person I am today, I guess.
Yeah. It's amazing how large of an impact, like one 1/100th of a second of the shutter speed has made.
And something so simple, really. Something that you can just overlook. And I did overlook this just natural nature in general for most of my life. And then, yeah, it's good. It's cliche, but it was like my eyes had been opened during this time in my life, and just haven't looked back.
Yeah, I remember the same feeling.
So what stands out for you then?
Yeah, so my shot isn't as good as your one you were just speaking about, but it was actually also a sunrise in Wollongong where I was out on my own.
Oh, I think I know which one this could be. I'm curious because I don't know your answer.
It was that fateful day in April 2013.
I knew it. Yes, with the surfers.
Yeah. So,
and we were friends back then.
Yeah, we were. So
I remember you messaging saying, "How do I get the photo?" No, I'm kidding. What am I doing? How do I turn it on? Nah,
so I'd been a photographer for probably like a little while before I took this photo. I was heaps into like taking portraits and that, and before that I was sort of doing iPhone stuff. But yeah, it was just this day. I went out on my own, sunrise, and I just kind of set up this shot, found a reflection.
And you had a lens that this was the first
time
I'd using a wide angle.
Yeah, it was the first time I had.
Did you borrow it off me? Or
yeah, it was your. I borrowed it off you. It was a wide angle on the Canon 5D Mark II. Those were the days, and I found this reflection at the beach and was sort of just setting up this shot because there was like some nice cloud in the sky, and I remember watching these two guys walking through the shot with surfboards, like these two surfers. So
you're just spying on people, basically.
And I was just
hiding in the bushes, watching people on the beach.
I just remember like not even planning to do this, but like seeing the opportunity of this moment that was going to pass.
Yeah.
Like there was going to be
reacting to a fleeting moment.
Yeah, that's it. There was going to be a split second where these guys were going to walk into the perfect part of the frame, and I was there ready to hit the shutter. And man, like that feeling of all those things coming together, like light.
And that quick rush of here they come, like, all right, I'm going to get these guys, bang.
Yeah. Just having the light, making a little bit of effort to get out of bed, and just getting this shot. Everything had come together for this moment, and I remember just being so stoked on this photo. And that sort of kicked off this thing of viewing life differently, like you said, where I started to notice things differently, like just watching how light plays on things throughout the day, and you just had your eyes, focusing and fixated on light, and it just changed.
And when you're doing that, you can't worry about anything else in life because you're in that moment. It's like meditation. You're so zoned in that the outside noise of life just gets muffled out. You can't think about anything else because you're so zoned in. Yeah.
And it was awesome. It was just finding details in life that used to be overlooked, and it made me, it increased my quality of life, I believe.
And you haven't got up for a sunrise since.
Yeah, that was my first and only, no. Very good. So I also, just a little story about that moment as well. I tried to do a different exposure, like because the 5D Mark II had bad dynamic range. I did 2 exposures for.
Yeah, I was wondering about that actually. Yeah. And what happened?
And instead of changing the shutter speed, I changed the aperture
to let more light in.
Yeah, so bad.
Is that what is the final shot an exposure blend though?
Yeah,
I was wondering.
Just the shadows. I just put some more shadows in the rock.
So the depth of field's like changed slightly through the 2 exposures.
Yeah, just such a rookie move.
What an absolute amateur.
I was into Photoshop and stuff before all that anyway, because I was doing portraits and stuff, so kind of knew how to do those exposure blends back then. But yeah, I just remember this shot, and it's actually printed in my parents' home, so that's actually just like a classic for them to have.
What a scholar.
Yeah, it's good times. I don't really like the shot now, hey, like not really proud of it photographically speaking.
Yeah, but that's the same as mine. Yeah, I wouldn't say, yes, this is a great photo.
Yeah, but just, so such a nice memory to have, and that was, like you said, it was just instinctually the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, and I think that's got to be your answer then, really, whatever instinct brings to mind. I just love those moments in photography. You can plan things to a T with landscapes and try and get a planned shot, but just reacting to spontaneous moments.
Yeah,
like the fog, for example,
sure.
that we had the other day, which you said you really enjoyed. That's just a spontaneous moment. Like, this is happening right now.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Do
Yeah.
I ignore it, or do I pursue it? Do I attempt to capture it? How am I going to capture it?
Yeah.
Just so many things happening, and yeah, you certainly don't always get it, but when you do, it's just as rewarding, in my opinion, as when you pre-visualize something and plan it in advance, and that comes together. I
Yeah.
love those two aspects of
Yeah.
landscape photography.
Yeah, and pre-visualizing and stuff is very important still, but yeah.
And even this is pre-visualization, but it's prior by only a few seconds
Yeah,
sometimes, instead
yeah.
of months or weeks or days or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just this crazy thing.
Oh, photography, hey?
Yeah, we're really...
We should do a podcast on it.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. No, I think we're just super stoked on it at the moment, like just finishing up the workshop, like sort of helping out people, and now we're looking at some of the most photogenic mountains in the world, so no, it's
It's funny to think that photography led us here as well to this point in time, even our friendship and mate, I'm getting sentimental, but it really has, it's changed our lives, and hopefully whoever's listening now, it's changed your life, or it's changing your life for the better too.
Yeah,
and if it hasn't, then you're a failure.
Wow.
That's
Cop
heavy.
that.
That is deep.
No, but if you're taking photos and you don't feel like you've had that moment, that aha moment or whatever, maybe just focus on the light. Start to zone in on things that affect photography and making it better, and just start to notice in everyday life that there's beauty everywhere.
Yeah, and just get yourself out there more often, and don't have high expectations. Just start to expose yourself to the elements, and like Cameron said, getting out amongst light, just study light, look at light, don't really think about the photography too much, and then these moments will happen.
Yeah.
But if you're just staying home and sleeping through the northern lights like Cameron likes to do...
Come on.
No, yeah, you just got to get out there and just enjoy it. And like I said, generally you'll find you don't regret heading out.
Yeah.
I never did.
No.
Even when I'd come back empty-handed, I'm like, well, that was better than just staying at home and just being a couch potato or something.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to our second question now for this episode. Special 2-question ep that we're recording today here in New Zealand. And we figured, hey, let's put the word to some of the workshop crew that we've had with us the past week. And we're going to go with one that we have from Jared. And Jared has said, how much does your mood affect the way you shoot?
Yep. So I'm always depressed, so all my photos are dark.
They've just got a depressive mood to them, really.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, really great question from Jared. Personally, I feel like you can let your mood affect your photography, or you can choose not to. I kind of view... If you look at photography in general, there's so many different genres, styles, and purposes for photography. And I just think it comes down to your photography yourself. So, for example, if you're a commercial photographer, a real estate photographer, then perhaps your mood does not ever affect your work. Just like if you were a barista making coffee every day, you rock up to work each day in a different mood, but ultimately you're just there to make that same coffee over and over again. So instead of certain styles of photography, it could just be about not putting any emotion in there at all on purpose, just restraining it and just getting the job done. Or there's the other side of photography, which is a more artistic side, which kind of essentially does involve channeling emotion through the work. And that's where I feel, that's what I aim to do, essentially. Try and convey a certain emotion. Now, it may not necessarily be the emotion I'm feeling at the time. I feel like a lot of my shots are somewhat moody, but however, when I'm taking them, I'm not always in that type of state of mind. But there is certainly times where I am perhaps down, or maybe struggling through something, or just contemplating certain thoughts, and I purposely will somewhat channel that through my work, or I'll seek certain compositions or scenarios to kind of express that. Even yesterday, for example, as we mentioned earlier, our loved ones couldn't land here in Queenstown. We've got this holiday lined up in this accommodation, and we've literally watched their plane get 100 metres from the runway and then have to pull up in these torrential winds and just fly away. And just knowing that my kids are on that plane, and I've been waiting to see them all week, and that was no longer happening. I remember looking out at the mountains here a little later, and I just had this urge to create something how I was feeling. I was feeling a bit melancholy about the whole scenario, and the mountains were really expressing my exact emotions, and I did fire a few frames, probably no keepers at all, but I'm certainly able to let my emotions affect the work, but I'm also able to subdue them and convey an emotion regardless of if I'm feeling that emotion or not.
Yeah, that's really good.
What a long-winded answer that was.
No,
Hopefully that made sense.
It did.
Sometimes I'll say stuff, like on this podcast, or even running workshops, and then I'll get to the end of the sentence and I think, what was I talking?
No, sometimes I'll express an opinion or something, and then 5 minutes later completely disagree with what I've said.
Yeah, I've heard you do that before. You'll finish it and you'll be like, wait, no, I don't agree with that. Just disregard what I said.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you haven't really thought about it properly, and as you're speaking, you start to reflect on it a bit more.
Yeah. Cool.
So what do you think about does emotion affect your work? Or photography?
Yeah, I think it does. A lot of time it's not a real direct connection. Like, I'm feeling sad, here's a blue photo, or I'm happy, here's a yellow photo.
Yeah, I was wondering what colour you're going to pick for happy.
Yeah, blue and yellow, sad and happy. I think the way it is more prevalent in my images is I'm reacting to something I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing, the emotion that brings out in me. So even though I might be happy and having fun and running around shooting a scene, the end result might still be that of melancholy. Sorry, I used that word because I liked it.
Yeah,
you said it earlier.
Just like that. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm thinking of the fog scenario.
Yeah, that's me.
Because that was fun and we're all stoked. We're literally stopping the car every 5 minutes and jumping out and like kids in a candy store. But when we look back at every single person's photo from that morning, I did not see joy in those photos. I see a deeper, even to use the word, like a cinematic feel to these shots, and a bit of sorrow and contemplation. But really, behind the lens, it was all laughs and happy days.
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
What would you attribute that to? I think it's me reacting to a scene and how I want to convey the scene to others, not necessarily how I'm experiencing that scene.
That's the power of photography, and I often say that to people. You're the storyteller here. How do you want to convey what we're looking at? That's totally up to you as the creator, the artist. And that is the fun part of photography. And it's often challenging sometimes when you might want to express something in particular, but it's just not there in front of you and you can't do it. But a lot of the time you have that option. You can be looking at a grand scene and you can go, okay, am I going to focus here on the smaller details and kind of give a brighter, happier mood, or go bigger and grander and go for a more like a powerful, majestic type feeling, leaving the viewer somewhat in awe of the photo, and you can pick which direction you go down, and I think that's such a powerful thing.
Yep.
And that's why I love this emotive style of photography. And I've had people ask me, would I shoot weddings or things like that? And just for me personally, if I was to go down the road of more commercial style photography or just shooting for ads or something like that, I personally would rather just pick up some tools and go back to doing like a laborious job than actually, I feel like that would be laborious with a camera. I'd rather put the camera down, leave it for creative expression, and just pick up tools and do a completely different job. Yep. So yeah, that's why photography, the camera, just like a paintbrush, a painter can paint a house and just put music on all day and just not think about much and paint a wall. No offense to painters out there, I know there's actually a lot involved with painting. Or a painter can also pick up a brush and paint the Mona Lisa, something that gets admired and looked at for centuries to come. I think photography is certainly the same. It's totally up to the person behind the lens, what the motives and the purpose is of the piece that they're creating.
Yeah. And we talked about reacting to a specific scene with how it makes us feel. For me, in a more generalised term, how my photos represent my general mood. I think you'd look at my photos and feel something very like they're predominantly dark. They're predominantly like this, I don't know, color scheme that can be seen as
it's pretty like
sad or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd probably say that.
Yeah,
Not necessarily sad, but there's like a darker overall feel to them. For
yeah,
sure.
and
like a low key.
I was just thinking, we were talking the other day, Will, about how a lot of the music I listen to is actually like slower. Some of it's sad, but
but
it's
it
not
makes
really
you
a
happy.
reflection of who I am as a person. Like, I'm not moping around, but I like listening to sad music, and it does make me happier.
Yeah. Maybe this is how we balance ourselves out, because I feel like literally we're always joking, hardly ever talking too serious, but then it's like the photography is our opportunity to vent that side of our personalities.
Yeah, so I think, I think you just hit the nail on the head. The
Bang.
reason my photos are sometimes not how I feel, or the opposite to how I feel, is because I'm, representing this emotion in a format.
I think we do feel it deep down, whether it's sadness or just deeper thoughts in general, but we kind of subdue it until it's time to be out with the camera, and we just have that channel, that opportunity to channel it. Who knows? I don't know.
I think it's good that
it's
we
deep.
can analyse how this reactions that we're having, because it means we understand it a bit better, and going forward we can continue to work towards photos that we know we're going to like.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's good to just kind of reflect on your work and even your motives behind the photos, and give yourself a sense of direction sometimes, instead of just being a bit aimless in what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. But
good.
Thanks for that question, Jared.
Yeah, thanks, Jared, and everyone else who was on the workshop this week. Absolute pleasure to get to know each and every single one of you and share some memorable moments. Jared's Instagram is at Jared, Jared, Moxey, Moxey, _photography. So Jared Moxey _photography. All right, Cam, you're here for another week, is it, roughly? 8 days in NZ?
So we're going to grab a camper van, drive around, see a few of the sites, get some more photos. I think I definitely want to keep focusing on shooting a lot of the places that we're going to go. It's work together with Ebony. I like photographing her, and work together with her to get some stuff that I've got in mind, I suppose.
So you got a few things in mind,
photographically
speaking?
Not real specifically, just directions that I want to go. And
as we said, you kind of just need to react to whatever nature's serving up at the time anyway.
Yeah, so hopefully I can stay focused, get some good work that I'm proud of.
Do you find that when you've got a week now in New Zealand, one of the most beautiful parts of the world, in my opinion, do you feel any pressure at all? Like you've just said in that sentence, you want to try and get some work or along those lines. Do you feel like, okay, there's pressure now, or are you best to just...
I didn't 10 seconds ago.
But now I do. Because that's, people travel and go to these places with their cameras aiming to tick off certain boxes, and just as we've seen here the last week or so, anything can happen and completely shut you down. So what's your mindset there?
Well, I'm basically not going to put pressure on myself because I don't think I work too well in that scenario. So, but I do want to make sure I'm staying focused, because I think a problem that I've faced is just losing my focus and putting photography sort of second to other things that it should probably be above. So I'm just going to stay focused, stick to a direction of the type of images that I want to create, and then finally
keep
hope
seeking
for the
opportunities
best
to get the photos.
Yeah. I'll make sure I'm putting myself in the scenarios where I will get good photos. So just chasing good light, good scenes.
Yeah.
And just working with them to get something.
Sounds good.
Yeah. What about you? So you've got family.
Yeah. So my wife and the children they're here now, obviously on the other side of the island, though, unfortunately. But our plan, somewhat similar to yours, just going to chill out in a few places here, Queenstown, Wanaka, and then down south at Tianau in Fiordland, and just want to relax and I want my family to be able to see New Zealand the way I see it. I've been here so many times now. My wife has only been here twice. And I just wanted to just kind of see some of the beauty that I've seen over the years, and ultimately just have some downtime as family. But definitely, photography's it's just a part of me, so I'll always be seeking moments. I'm potentially planning a bit of a wilderness trek, maybe getting dropped off. I've got many locations scouted on maps in wilderness, which to hike to, you're looking at 2 to 3 days minimum one way. So these areas, I'm able to get a helicopter to drop me off in some of these parts. So if the weather window allows, I might just have a quick 2 to 3 days of doing something like that. And then the rest is purely just having fun with the family, but also keeping an eye out on what's happening around me and trying to photograph any opportunities that arise as well. And even me, like I feel a little bit of pressure in the sense that, I've got 2 weeks here in winter, which has been a killer winter. There's lots of snow here at the moment. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I should really be doing this justice. What I should be getting out there and driving through the night to get to somewhere for sunrise and then getting back to family, blah, blah, blah. But it's just so hard, especially with the light and everything. You just can't predict what's going on. So I'm not going to try and set the bar too high for myself. Just going to account for those unforeseen moments that inevitably come up in places like this. I know there's going to be things that pop up and just going to be picking my jaw up off the floor. It just happens. But you got to, of course, get out of the house to experience that, which I'll be trying to do. And hopefully my son doesn't mind tagging along and having some fun, which he usually does. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it sounds good, man. And we'll be catching up after it's all over and recording another episode for you guys, and we'll tell you all about it.
We can share with you how much we failed.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, though, and if you want to send in your own question, you can email us at shootfirstpodcast@gmail.com, and check out the show notes at shootfirstpodcast on Instagram or in the links at the description of the podcast.
Sweet as. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next episode.
See ya.